Welcome to Memphis, and it is sunrise over FedEx land as we take another look at a really amazing airplane. There's a couple of little bugs here and there, but I think one of the biggest things about the Rotate MD-11 is it's a pretty complex airplane. This is not an Airbus in Microsoft Flight Simulator, so there's an awful lot to learn about this airplane too. And how about that sunrise? We've got real-world weather cranked into the simulator right now. And the FedEx MD-11 is at stand 209, getting all ready to go on a flight that this thing does almost on a daily basis. FedEx flies an MD-11 from Memphis all the way up to Chicago, and then it continues on. I still haven't researched enough to find exactly where it goes. Hello from the Spy Flight Deck. I'm Dave. I do the Spy Flight over on Twitch. And we took a look at this airplane when it first came out. It was a first look flight, and it was a little rocky. And after about 10, 11, 12 flights, I think, it's still a little bit rocky, but I'm starting to learn more and more. So it's probably time for us to start thinking about doing what amounts to a cold and dark type of a flight here with the FedEx MD-11. Several things that I was going to tell you about. First of all, over at xplane.org, if you go over there in the forums, there is the payware support forum. Go to Rotate, look for the MD-11 there. This is where I'm finding an awful lot of really good information about workarounds, but also what the developer is doing with this airplane too. So let's run out to the airport, because there's a couple of workarounds that I wanted to start off with and show you. And I'm using the Thrustmaster TCA Airbus stuff. So what I've gone and done here is you can see over here that throttle number 1 is just the throttle. In X-Plane, you have the option of controlling each of your throttles individually, or you can put them all together on one lever. Well, the Airbus only has 2 levers. This airplane has 3 engines. So for now, I've just put them all together on one. So the left one is, that's my throttle. Throttle 2, if you can read the small print, says nose wheel tiller. Okay, so right now steering with the rudder pedals is, at least I haven't figured out a way to make it all work yet. So one of the things that I'm doing is my number 2 tiller wasn't needed. So what I've gone and done is I put this in the middle, and that is my nose wheel tiller right now. It's a little awkward, arguably, yes, but this is the workaround that's working for me at the moment. And the reason that I don't use the twist stick, because one of the things that you can do is over on the side stick, you can do the side stick twist. Well, as you see, when I move mine, it's all over the place. It's jumpy. There's some dirt in there, and I'm quite frankly a giant chicken, and I don't want to tear into my nice Thrustmaster throttle side stick to clean it. So I'm just living with it right now. So that's another reason why my tiller is over here. Let's talk about a couple of buttons that I've gone and set up here. First of all, the number 3 button. Okay, the number 3 button. It's a little red button on the side of the number 1 throttle there for the left engine. That is my ATS disconnect switch. Auto throttle disconnect. I've been having a hard time on landing, making sure that it's absolutely disconnected when I'm on the ground and I want to stop the airplane. So I've got the ATS disconnect switch. It's the left button. I didn't find a center button, so I'm hoping that takes care of all of my throttles. We're going to see. This is a little bit of an experimental flight right now. And then the number 4 button, and that's sort of on the Airbus. Those are the red buttons on each side. That's auto throttle disconnect in the Airbus. Well, this one is what I call hold all engine reversers at max. And so what you do, from what I've been able to read, is you, after you go and you run your throttle all the way down to idle, is you go and you hold that button down, and that slowly reverses your reversers, and then you release it, and then the reversers stop. We shall see. This is another experiment. Yes, this is an experimental cold and dark. How about that? The only other thing that I've gone and done is the number 7 button. This is the number 7 button down here. And what I've done with that is I've turned that into the airplane menu button. It's just a convenient way to do that. Now, one more thing that I've read about that it's a good idea is in the response curve here, add yourself a little bit bigger null zone at idle. You definitely want this thing to be at idle before you try to engage the reversers. And so if you do those things, again, these are the things that I've gone and set up, and hopefully this will help you too. Oh, one more thing. Let's go to the side stick. My number 6 button, that's my AP disconnect switch. Look in there and look for the AP disconnect switch L, the left button. So let's go into the cockpit. I just want to show you a few of these things here. So the thing that we're talking about, the LP disconnect switch, this is autopilot release. And there you go. There's the autopilot release. That's the red button on the Thrustmaster Airbus thing. So that's one thing that I've gone and done. The other thing that I've done is there's some switches, some buttons here. And so this button here, this is my auto throttle release. We'll see. Now there's also, I believe, one on the top here. This is for engine number 2. And then there's one over here for this engine. I don't know if I need to have all of those buttons mapped or not. I haven't been able to read that yet. But that's kind of what we got going on for that. And those are really the controls that I've got set up. A little bit of this is an experiment. A little bit of this isn't. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, the airplane is here, and I got to tell you, I've really enjoyed learning about this airplane. You know, the modern Airbuses are a lot of fun. I've been having a blast with them. But the older airplanes, you know, the Fella 747, FlyJ Sim 727 and 737, and now rotates MD-11, this has been an awful lot of fun. One other thing that I've done since I did that first video is I've watched some of the real-world MD-11 cockpit videos, and that's kind of helped me slowly work together my to-do list here. And as you can see on this text file, this is my to-do list for this airplane. I've got it off to the side here. And this is a list that I'll be, there's a preliminary list over on Discord. Yes, my Discord should be linked in the description below. And so we've got that. The other thing that I will do, and you'll see this is in the description, this is sort of like my pilot's flight notes. And so all of these notes are going to be there. Now, let's look at this takeoff stuff down here. All of this takeoff stuff is generated, the takeoff parameters, let's not call it stuff, the takeoff parameters, all of this is generated by a old flight planner called TopCat. It's an old payware. I've had it around for years, but this airplane, you know, is in TopCat. You might need to do a few tweaks in there, but other than that, it's really been kind of cool. I'm going to show you workarounds so that you don't have to have TopCat going. The only other thing here is I've got real-world ADAS for Memphis and Chicago, and so all of these are set up too. So you'll see I didn't include the ADAS information because chances are you're going to be flying this on a different day, but all of that's good. Let's go ahead and look at just a couple of things here. We're going to be doing the freighter flight from Memphis to Chicago. This is a real-world flight, FedEx Flight 309. We're departing from stand 209. Yes, I'm using TopCat, Navigraph data and charts, better pushback, and I do have payware airports for Memphis and Chicago. Orbix has a new Memphis out that's really nice, and Nimbus has had a great Chicago for quite a while. If this is your first cold and dark with me, I let you know that I keep these as simple as I can. This is turning out to be a very complex airplane, and there are a lot of little rabbit holes that you can hop down into. I'm going to try and not hop down into too many rabbit holes. This is supposed to, this kind of cold and dark video is designed to get amateur pilots like us up in the air, cruise, and landed and at the gate without, you know, making the simulated evening news. One thing I have done is on my Active Sky, which is my weather engine, I have turned off turbulence right now. That is for the Concorde, and I'm just going to leave it that way for a while. Finally, about these cold and darks, this is not about the right way versus the wrong way. This is what I've learned over the past week or so, and this is what works for me. Again, there's rabbit holes to jump down, and we can jump down those rabbit holes, but right now this whole video is designed to get you from this stand to the stand in Chicago, and then you can jump down the rabbit holes. The flight plan for us today, there it is, Memphis to Chicago, departing off runway 27. Our cruise level is flight level 380. You may have heard that this airplane has got a little bit of attitude above flight level 320. There is a workaround for that right now, and basically you're going to use MCT thrust for cruise. We're going to look at that, and hopefully I'll remember to do that. Otherwise, the airplane gets rather cranky. Let's see, landing in Chicago. Real World is landing on 28 Center. I always try and look and see what the Real World is doing when I do my flight plans. Flight time is 1 hour and 25 minutes. Flight distance, 514 miles. And finally, so how do you make all of this work for you? Stop the video right now, load up your simulator, and fly along with me. Get the flight notes. When I push a button, you try and push a button. If I'm going too fast, the beauty of YouTube, you can stop. You can also reverse and go back a little bit. Then after you do this within a day or two, I really suggest that you take this on a flight out of your hometown airport or your home country airport. That just kind of helps bring this stuff home to you. And then finally, if possible, join us on the Twitch Spy Flights. We got a really nice, amazing community over there, and really smart people, a lot smarter than I am, and they're doing a really good job of helping us all learn to navigate this amazing airplane. So let's start off with what it is that I usually do, and my options that I have my deck temperatures are in Celsius, and I synchronize all of my altimeters. So all of my barometer settings are synchronized. This is a two-person cockpit. You're busy as hell. You know what? I'm willing to sacrifice a little bit of realism and just set one altimeter. I mean, that just saves some time. Let's go over here to the load manager. So the load manager here, the basic operating weight right now without payload is 253,262 pounds. Well, over here, you know, most flight planners are going to give you a zero fuel weight, but they're not going to give you the payload. So you've got to do a little bit of math. And what you do is take the zero fuel weight that you get out of your flight plan, subtract this number here, and that's going to give you your payload. In my case, it's going to give us a payload of, and I did the math, and my payload is going to be 140,330 pounds. So we got that set. Block fuel. Okay, this is the planned gate fuel on the style of flight plan that I use. This is what I get out of SimBrief and SimToolkit Pro. This is the United Airlines 2018 style of flight plans, and right now we're on page 9. And so fuel. So fuel for us is going to be planned gate fuel, 46,429. So we're going to go ahead and put that number here in block fuel. So 46429, 46429. Ultimate test, can I type in the right numbers? Next thing is taxi fuel. Taxi fuel is listed as taxi fuel, and I've got 1,000 pounds of taxi fuel. That should give me about 10 minutes. I should have added more. Hopefully I don't regret that. And then trip fuel. This is the amount of fuel that it takes for us to get to Chicago without doing alternates or minimums. That's 22,423. So 22,423. So there's our fuel load right now. And that's what we've got there. So we've got all of these numbers. Now the next thing that we have to do is we have to look at our takeoff center of gravity. And the takeoff center of gravity, generally at this point, what everyone's saying to me is you ought to be between 25 and 27% mean aerodynamic chord. No, it's not about a Big Mac at McDonald's. It's mean aerodynamic chord, a very big word for this early in the morning. But it's right now it's at 29.1. We want to get the center of gravity down. I'm trying to put it as close to 26 as I can. And so that gets us within all the envelopes, and hopefully that's good. All right, so all this looks good. If you look over at the airplane, I'm going to go and hit the apply load and configuration. Watch the nose of the airplane. Do you see it move a little bit? Yeah, we just loaded up the airplane, okay? So that's all you really have to do. You can go to ground operations, and this adds a little bit of the immersion and fun, and there's nothing wrong with fun when it comes to these simulated airplanes. So we're going to get a ground power unit. We're also going to get the cockpit stairs. Let's also open the cockpit door and the really big cargo door. So let's go and get these open. If you remember the old DC-10s and MD-11s, the passenger doors kind of disappeared up. So that's really all you got to do. This is what we need here. The airplane is fueled, the airplane is loaded, and so let's hop into the best seat in the house. One thing that I like to do when I'm doing a sim flight, when I first fire up the sim, I always like to just move whatever controls I might have. You do this also before, when the airplane is powered up, but I just like to make sure, are my controls connected? If my controls are connected, then that's a good thing. Sometimes USB controls disconnect. And I found out about that one time when I was getting ready to take off. I was on the runway, throttles forward. I pulled a stick back and nothing happened. So there you go. All right, let's start with the flows. And like most big jetliners, we're going to come up here, and the first thing we do is the battery button. Unguard it, turn it on, reguard it. Yeah, you don't want to turn that off in the middle of flight. Next thing is we do have external power, so I'm going to punch in external power. And then from there, the next thing I do is go down and make sure the nav lights are on. One of the things I'm discovering about this airplane is a lot of this airplane is really automatic. So there's a lot of stuff that this airplane does for you. Next thing, we're putting gas in the airplane, so no smoking's going on. And we are slowly making progress. Next thing is go up here, and we're going to do the fire test. This is engine and APU fire. Hold it down, you can see all sorts of bells going off. Always cool to see all the little bells, and you actually hold that thing down for a while. At least that's what I see the real world pilots doing. And with that, we're now ready to start up the old APU. Now you can hit the starter button, which is up here. You can hit start stop there, or if you hit it here, it becomes a lot more automatic. So our APU is going to be starting up there. While the APU is starting, we're on ground power. Let's go over here, and this is nav. So this turns on the navigation systems. So go to nav 1, but I tilted up there. You see the cargo fire stuff? Watch this. We're going to turn on number 1. And in the amount of time that you get to take a sip of your coffee, it does the cargo fire test for you. After that, we're going to do nav 2 and auxiliary nav. And now we're going to go and look down here. Airplane is slowly coming to life. Let's look down over here, and if you see on basic engines, you can see the APU information is over here. So N1 on the APU is about 63%, I believe. And then all of a sudden you'll notice the EGT going down again. And if you go outside the airplane, you can hear that the APU has fired up. So we got an APU going up there. With the APU online, and it says it's available, I'm going to go down here into the pneumatic system, and let's zoom in so you can see where these buttons are. Okay, so let's go ahead and get APU bleeds on right now. So there's APU bleed, and with that we can go and we're going to disconnect from ground power and juice off the APU. Once we do that, I'm going to go and get the rotate box, and I'm going to dismiss the ground power unit right now. So that's good to go. And all that's good. If you want to do a little bit more immersion, you can come down here and you can do the enunciator light test. This is what turns on all the lights. So you can do all the lights there, and that's pretty cool. Next thing I like to suggest that you can do is come down here and adjust your cabin lights, your cockpit lights. Here is the overhead, and if you turn the knob that's closest to the panel, and that's the little white thing there. There's 2 knobs actually on this. That's going to be the backlighting on the panel. And then I'm also going to do this on the instrument panel and pedestal. And so now we're getting more lights going on. The last thing I'm going to do is come over here. There's another one of these, and we're going to turn up the backlighting here on the FGS. I've been calling it the FCU, Flight Control Unit. I guess it's Flight Guidance System. And so there we go. This is our initial cockpit setup. Our airplane is slowly coming to life. Next thing on my to-do list is the FMC initialization. And over here, we're going to go ahead and we're not going to clear this. We have to remind ourselves. That's a good reminder. So we're going to look here. There is navigation data. There are some pretty good fixes, pretty good explanations about how to get your Navigraph data in. Essentially, if you don't have the Navigraph is just putting nav data into the MD80 right now, and you're going to have to copy some files and rename a folder. That information's over there. Once we get into Cruise, I can show you that. But there is a way to get nav data in there, and my guess is the people at Navigraph are going to have that fixed probably by the next cycle. The Navigraph people are usually really on top of everything. So let's go to Flight Plan Init now. And from Flight Plan Init, we're going to put in our from to. So departure airport is KMEM. Memphis Airport, we're going to do the little slash, and we're going to do KORD. We're going to pop that in right there. Next thing I like to do is I like to put in the alternate. I don't know if this is out of flow or not. I was just seeing people putting in the alternate first, so our alternate is KDTW. DTW, and that goes into the alternate. And now I'm going to initialize the IRS. And then initialize IRS goes away, and from there we're kind of done. Now if you want to jump down a rabbit hole, you can look at your alignment position here, your latitude and longitude. You can even make changes if you choose to do that. Let's go and do other things. So all of those are good to go. While this is slowly warming up, now all of a sudden let's do a little bit more setup here in the airplane. Cargo temperatures. I'm seeing a lot of the real world pilots will put this into high. I'm not sure, but they do that. Then we can do the hydraulic pressure test. So come on down here, and in the Airbus we call this the ECAM. So I'm going to turn these off, and I'm going to go to hydraulics. And so hydraulic system is over here. Now let's look up here, and the hydraulic panel is up here, and there is the hydraulic pressure test system. And we're going to push it and re-guard it, and then look back down here, and you can see it says hydraulic pressure test. Okay, so it's going to pressurize the system. It's even going to move a few things around, I believe, but you don't have to monitor this. Hydraulic pressure test is here. When we're done with all this, we'll see that it goes away and everything's good to go. Emergency power. So we're going to arm the emergency power. This is right here. So just arm that. Emergency power. Emergency lights. There's apparently an emergency light testing thing that you can do. So you can go ahead and arm this and test this. I'm not sure about the test stuff yet. And then the last thing we're going to do is slide over here to the anti-ice area, and we're going to turn the defogger system on for the windshield. And all of that's good to go too. Now let's go ahead and set up what I believe they call in the manuals, they call this the glare shield. And you're going to want to, I believe, you'll look over and see that the minimums are set to RA. That's good. And altimeters, we can check altimeters. Several different ways that you can go and get altimeter information. I like to go to METAR TAF. This is a great way, especially if you're new to flight simulators and flying and stuff like that. This is an incredibly good way to check and see what the weather is like where you are. And right now, real world, they're taking off on runway 27. It's early in the morning. There's not a lot of wind. And this is how I believe they get the FedEx airplanes out of the gate as fast as possible. So this is our Memphis weather. And I'll actually go and take this information. As you saw, I highlighted it down there at the bottom. Control C. And then I'll take this and put these into my flight notes. That way I've just got the METAR always in front of me in case I need it. We can also review this really fast. We've got our clouds, a few clouds at 7,000 feet. There's some more at 25,000. It's a really nice day in the neighborhood. It's VFR. As Mr. Rogers says, it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. But it does look like we're going to have a slight tailwind of 5 knots. That's okay. I think that this airplane can handle that. METAR TAF, links in the description, of course. So let's go ahead and set the altimeter. Altimeter is right here, and it's a small little button here. And let's zoom in a little just so you can see. So here's the button for the baro, and here's where you look to see. Our altimeter is 3015, 3015. That's also the first officer. So there's that, and you would also take a look and see, does that match your field elevation? Right now, it's kind of flashing at me, so my guess is maybe that's an old barrow. The altimeter here is 341 feet. This is probably flashing. Let's go up. That's still flashing. So 30. So that's not why that's flashing. 3015. So that's not why it is. Okay, another thing about this, if you use the mouse thumb wheel and stuff to adjust, to turn knobs, if you click it one at a time, it'll go one at a time. If you do more than one little click, it will really rocket you forward. Now the next thing that I'll do is I'll come down here and I'll set the backup, just because I want to be a good pilot and start setting my backup altimeter. So 3015, that's good to go there. Cleared altitude. If we were on VATSIM or IVAO or Pilot Edge, we would have a cleared altitude. To keep it simple, I'm just going to go ahead and set our final cruise. We're going to flight level 380. We're testing that managed cruise theory today. Runway heading for takeoff. Look over here at your charts, and we are going to be taking off on runway 27. 27 heading is 273 degrees. So we're going to do 273 degrees in here. And you can really see if you push the button, 273. There we go, 273. There we go. So we got that set. Transponder. We're going to go down here, and the transponder is down here. And it's just us, but we're going to go ahead and put in 2000, and that's good to go too. Comm radios. We're also going to go ahead and set 122.8. Not on VATSIM, but that's usually where I set those things. And now we're going to go ahead and start doing a little more FMC stuff. So from here, let's go and put in a flight number. We are flying today as FedEx Flight 309. So FDX 309. So FedEx 309. The cruise, we're going to go for it, flight level 380. What could possibly go wrong? Okay, and then finally cost index, you get that off the flight plan. Look on your flight plan, it'll say CI. My cost index today is 45, and so all of that's good. Now let's go ahead and start putting in the actual waypoints. Start off with the airport departure, Memphis, SID, and we know that we're running off 27. We're going to be doing the Jetty 5 departure. So Jetty 5. There's Jetty 5. And we'll be out at Odate. So there we go. Select that and insert it. Okay, we're good to go there. So I usually take the end of the star and put that at the top. After Odate, we're going to go to FTZ. So FTZ VOR. FTZ. And that's it. Okay, sometimes you're going to get two of them. A great way to tell which one you should use is normally it's at the top, but look at the one that may be closest to you. You could also jump down the rabbit hole of looking at your charts, and it'll give you the latitude and longitude. That's what the real pilots are going to do, but we'll save you the latitudes and longitudes. Next thing, let's put in the arrival, Chicago O'Hare and the star. And we are going to be coming in on 28 center. So look down here for 28 center. We are coming in on the Turtle 6 arrival. So there's Turtle 6. And we're coming in via Fitz. And we'll use the Vogler transition, although we won't go all the way out to Vogler. And let's go ahead and insert that. Hit flight plan again. That should put you at the top of your flight plan. Now come over here and go and hit plan. And then we can decrease the map just a little bit. And then what I'll do is I'll tilt down and I'll look at the flight plan, and I'm going to use the up arrow. There's vectors off departure, then there's Houston, Jetty, Odate, Fitz, and then that is our approach. That looks good. There's going to be, okay, that's going to drop us out this way. That looks great too. There's Vogler, and this should take us in. And If we have to do a missed approach, it puts in the missed approach for us too. Really smart airplane. Okay, so I think the flight plan is workable. So we'll come up here and I'm going to go back to map mode. So flight plan is looking good. There's one route discontinuity. We'll be doing vectors off the runway. No big deal there. And just looking here at everything else. Now, if you want to jump down a couple of little rabbit holes here, you can hit the progress button and you can look and see your estimated time en route, and you can see your distance to go if those numbers are relatively close to your flight plan. Good indicator that you're going to you've entered the flight plan correctly. It's not going to be exact, but it's pretty good. Okay, so all of that looks good. Now let's go ahead and we're going to do the init page 2. So go to the init button and go to the next page. There is page 2. There's our taxi, 1,000. I hope I don't regret that. Block fuel, make sure that that's what you wanted for your flight plan. I'll take a look. Yep, that's good. All the rest of the numbers at this point in time, we can jump down those rabbit holes later. If you put the data into the rotate box correctly, guess what? You're going to be just fine there. So that takes care of those numbers. Takeoff and approach button. All right. Here's where there's going to be some workarounds here. First of all, flex temperature. All right, this is just like flex temperature. This makes the engines work a little bit, saves fuel and takes it easy on the engines on takeoff. What numbers can you put in there? So if you just want to do like a toga takeoff, put in the current temperature at the airport, the outside air temperature. And if we look here, you can see total air temperature. Right now it's 7 degrees. So you could put in 7 degrees and that's blasted out full. Generally over on the spy flight, people are suggesting anywhere between 40 and 60 is a good number. So those are numbers that you can put in for flex if you want to derate your takeoff and save a little bit of fuel. I'll stop. My flex temperature I've got is 60 degrees off a Top Cat, which is pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and put in 60 degrees, so that goes in there. Flaps for takeoff, this said flaps 10. I think that if you don't have Top Cat or anything like that, 10 or 15 degrees is going to get you out of most airports, so there's your workaround on that. Okay, slope and wind. This has been entertaining for me. But if you have Sim Toolkit Pro, which by the way is free and it's evolving and it's getting really good, I've really enjoyed using this. So to figure out your slope, if you go over here and you've got this engaged, it's going to show your airport. See where it says slope? Minus 0.4. So we're going to put in minus 0.4 slash. Remember, we have a tailwind. You either have a headwind or a tailwind. Well, we've basically got a tailwind on this one, and it is a tailwind of 5 knots. So I think what you do is, there's several ways to do this. I'm going to try and do minus 0.5. Let's see if this works. Another way to do it is TL. It worked. Uh-oh, well, it said headwind. Okay. Well, you know what? There you go. Shall we try? Let's try and fix it. So minus 0.4, minus 0.4 slash, let's try the word TL for tailwind, 0.5. Okay. And that's, so the minus didn't work, but TL, so down slope on the runway, tailwind of 5, great. How about that? Outside air temperature. Right now, the METAR says it's 7. The temperature gauge on the airplane says it's 7. Those match. Let's make it 0.7. Okay, so all this looks good. It says check and confirm V speeds now. So over here, this is going to give you some speeds. Right now, I will tell you that these numbers are within 2 of all of the numbers that Top Cat gave me. So all you need to do if you don't have Top Cat, click, 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 and you're done. I'm going to put in my Top Cat numbers. So 135, 135. Rotate is 155. So that number is exactly the same as Top Cat. And V2 is 167. 167. It's a little bit higher. I don't mind it being higher. So V2, 135, 155, 167. No, very good. There are other places that you can go and get things like engine out acceleration levels. Let's not worry about those today. That's a rabbit hole. So we're good to go with that. And guess what? We're ready to start engines and go. So let's see, what's the current time? The current time is 46. We are 10 minutes late now getting out of the gate. So we're going to come over here and we're going to get the big box. Let's close the doors. Okay, let's get rid of the stairs. We're going to leave the chocks in place. I use Better Pushback. It is a free pushback. It works really good. Let's go ahead and actually start our pushback.
Ground to cockpit. Please show me where you want to go.
And let's go and turn this around this way. And we're going to just go out like this. Make it nice and smooth and
Ground
enter.
to cockpit. Tow is driving up.
All right, so pushback is called. Let's confirm that the parking brake is indeed on. And the light is on, the lever is down, parking brake is on. Last stop in the really big rotate box. We're going to go ahead and I'm just going to pull the chocks right now. And all of our doors are closed. Ground power is gone. Stairs, everything's gone. So we're good there. Seatbelts. Yep, I've watched videos of real-world pilots flying cargo on this thing, and they turn on seatbelts too. And so now we're ready for our pushback truck here. I thought I pulled my chocks. My chocks still are in place. Let's see. Did I pull the chocks? Do I not know what
Okay,
chocks
all
set?
doors and hatches are closed. Ready to connect.
Dismiss. Chocks. Maybe I didn't click it well enough. So here comes the pushback truck. When they say doors and windows are closed, ready to connect, this is my cue to come up here to whatever airplane I'm on. This is where I'm going to go ahead and turn on the beacon. So that's usually when I turn on my beacon. Windshield heat, if it's icy, I guess we would turn on windshield heat, but right now, as long as you've got the defogger turned on, the airplane seems to be happy. And then the last thing we're going to do is at this point, we're going to start the ignition, and the ignition's right down here, and we have two of them, A, B, or override. Right now I'm starting with A, and we're good to go there.
Tow connected and bypass pin inserted. Release parking brake.
Okay, this is where if we were on a network, we'd call for push and start clearance. We're not on a network, so we're going to give ourselves clearance. Clarence. Roger, roger, and then we just released our brakes.
And you may start engines.
And there goes our very, very big, long airplane. Really got a surprise. This is a long airplane. I think that saw a statistic. It's 10 feet longer or 10 meters longer than the old DC-10. So they actually stretched it out a little bit. Okay, on pushback. We're running late, so let's go ahead and start some engines. Start sequence on this airplane is 3-1-2. And you start by coming over here, and here's the engine starter, and you pull it. So you see my mouse pointer right here? Watch as I move it to the top of the starter lever. See how it becomes an up arrow? Pull it. That starts it. Look over at your engine instruments, and you see there's engine number 3. It started to turn on. We're looking for 15% to introduce fuel. So there's 7. Oh, we're getting a little light out there. 10. 11, 12, and there is 15%, and it's time to turn on fuel. Fuel animation button is really pretty cool. Let's also go ahead and I'm going to switch on over to the engines. All my engine instruments here. And we got an engine starting. And that's the engine that's starting right there. You can see it spinning around. Works pretty good. Okay. Nice pushback. Always time for a sip of pilot coffee.
Operation complete. Go ahead and set the parking brake.
And parking brake is set. And it's kind of hard to see. Just look for the down arrow.
Disconnecting
and that
tow.
does that.
Stand by.
And let's go and look at our engine. Engine is still coming up. There's 20. 21. I think it's either 23 or 26.8 in there. Let's see where it stops. It's starting to slow down. I think it's 23.8 is basically idle here on N1. Yeah, that looks pretty good. How about let's start another engine? So let's go ahead, put our pointer down there. Light goes on. Look over here for engine number 1. There goes all sorts of cute little numbers. We're looking for 15%. And there's 10%. 11, 12, 13, 14.
Tow is disconnected and bypass pin has been
And
removed. Hand
15.
signal on the left. We'll see you next time and have fun up there.
Okay, thanks for the nice push. We'll look for the gear, pin, and wave on the left. Thanks. So there goes our pushback truck. Again, better pushback just has worked so well. You can also create some remote buttons for better pushback. As you can see, when I started this, it requires me to do nothing to break immersion. But I'm going to look there. There is our what some airlines call the salute and release from guidance. They're also holding up the gear pin. Real world pilots say do not move your airplane until you get a salute and release from guidance. That's your guarantee that they have inspected the underside of the airplane. There's nothing that's going to get sucked into the engine. There's nobody messing around down there, and you can move and not run over somebody. There's 21, 22, so almost 23, and we're almost good with this start. And 23.8. And there's 23.8. We have a good start on 1. Let's do the 1 way up in the tail. There's a little light. And numbers come alive, 15%, and we're going to get a good start on this one. It's still relatively early here at Spy HQ, so I'm not trying to sit here and talk in my sexy voice. I'm just not talking very loudly because it's really kind of early. I wanted to try and get this done today because this airplane, a lot of people are in the flight sim community are really enjoying this airplane. It's also changing. The developer is working on some bug fixes, but I also think that learning about this airplane is probably the best thing that you can do to start figuring this thing out. Like I said, I've been enjoying the heck out of it. So, okay, we're getting a good start here on engine number 2. And outside the airplane, if we want, we can kind of come over here to release the camera, and then we kind of turn ourselves around. You can see the engine's kind of spinning around in there. A lot of people don't realize the engine itself is actually fairly far back in there. So if you look over here, that's actually the engine there. And yes, this engine does go into reverse too. So all 3 of your engines become reversible. And we're almost done with this start too. 23.8 engine starts. All 3 are good. At this point, all I'm going to do is come up here to the APU bleed, and I'm going to turn it off. If you start the APU over here on the power panel, it's going to turn itself off for you. So that's pretty good. After start checklist, let's go down and we're going to check, put monitor number 4, that's what I call it, into the config status. And this is what I call monitor number 4. So monitor number 4 is over here. This is where we're going to do another flight control check. This is when the real world pilots are going to go and see, do the elevators work? And the ailerons and the rudder. Okay, so the flight controls are good. That looks great. Auto brakes are going to go to takeoff. So auto brakes are down here, takeoff. Let's see, flap lever. So flaps are going to go to 10. Flap lever is over here. Now, you can't really go and put this thing over on your lever, so that you really need to use this you really need to use the buttons on this, and then you have to dial the flap setting. And so flaps are now set to 10. Dial a flap. I'm sorry, I've got a goofy sense of humor. I just think that dial a flap is hilarious. Stabilizer trim. Stabilizer trim, it says minus 5.8. Let's go back over here. And I do have my trim set up. So we can go ahead, and it's 5.8.
Stabilizer motion.
And 5.8 kind of puts us right in the middle of the green zone. So there is that. And we're also then going to reach down here and see where, see the pointer. You can see that there is a up arrow and a down arrow for speed brakes. Then there is a little hand. Grab the hand and pull it up. Speed brakes are armed. We're going to look down here, and we're going to go to the takeoff performance page and make sure we're still there. We're good to go. And guess what time it is? It's taxi time. So we're on, even off VATSIM, it's TARA time. I think not on VATSIM, real world, you go to TA. You go to RA at takeoff. TA, though, is squawking mode Charlie in VATSIM land, and they want all that. Okay, look up here. We're going to do the nose light is going to go on. There's our nose light on. Turn off lights if you need them. We're going to go ahead and release the parking brake. Feet on the toe brakes. And I'm going to see, is this little bar green? If that bar is green, we're ready to go. That's sort of, I guess, your takeoff config. Release the toe brakes, and as you can see, even at idle, the airplane is moving. So that's why I did my toe brakes right after I released the parking brakes. So the lower box is green. And now it's taxi time. If you're new to a certain airport, there is absolutely no shame whatsoever in using a moving map. And so there we are. So we're going to come out here. We're going to loop around to Victor 1 to runway 27. So as far as using the rudder pedals, I saw over on the xplane.org website, the forum for this airplane, that there is apparently a workaround for rudder pedals, nose wheel steering. I haven't read that yet, and right now using throttle number 2 as my nose wheel tiller seems to be working. So, you know, at this point, why fix what's not broken? Remember, on this airplane, you're sitting way in front of your nose wheel. You can also see, if you look down at the speed tape in the primary flight display, your taxi speed for 90 degrees, a 90-degree turn or more. I like to go to about 9 or 10 knots. And look around here, and around we go. You're really, really tempted to want to go and do outside views on this airplane, but as you're learning, I'd basically say first few flights, avoid doing the outside views until you get comfortable with your taxi. And then, of course, one of the cool things about X-Plane is flyby or taxi by. And here comes our airplane. Taxiing outside the airplane's good skill. A very long airplane. I always really liked the nose of the airplane and the seats for the pilots. I always thought that this jetliner, this airplane really has the best views. Or they had to have been. I've never actually sat in one, so it just looks like it's got to have the best views. So throttles on this thing and takeoff. If you don't do it fast enough, it won't accelerate you fast enough. If you don't do it slow enough, it seems to be a I don't know, like in the Concorde, you just slam it forward. Yeah, in the Airbus, it's, you know, throttles up to that mid mark, and then either managed or toga. So for this one, I haven't quite figured out exactly, you know, what the magic sweet spot is. Now, one of the things that they have made here is they've made this sort of these ghost throttles. I don't pretend to understand those yet. All right, let's go ahead and get ourselves out on the runway. Let's go ahead and turn on the high intensity strobes, the high intensity lights. Landing lights, we can go ahead and drop those out of the bottom of the airplane. You don't turn those on until you're lined up, though, because you can blind other people, I guess, on the ground in front of you. So wait till you're lined up. There's our center line. Not the longest of runways, so I'll get lined up here and stop as quick as I can. Okay, so there we are, and we're nicely set. So landing lights are pretty good. Now, over here, apparently what you do is the auto flight button shouldn't be thought of as just a single action button. At least that's what's going on in my twisted little mind right now. Okay, so the auto flight button at the moment really seems to me to be a multi button. So we're going to actually press this twice during the takeoff phase. We're going to press it once right now. Auto flight. I'm going to uncage the backup horizon. Landing lights to full on now. And now we're ready to go. Down here on the engine instruments, there's a little marker here. I believe that that is our takeoff thrust. So what I'm going to do is slowly move my throttles up to match that. Okay, brakes are released. Throttles are going up. Throttles are up. Okay, so I've matched that. Hands now moved over to the tiller. Hands also on the side stick. Airspeed tape's alive. $100 knots. I got V1. And rotate. Hey, we're flying. Positive rate gear. Gear handle works great on my Thrustmaster controllers. So gear's going up and a beautiful sunrise departure. Okay, looking down here. Let's get those flight directors matched up. Flight directors are matched up. Well, sort of matched up. Okay, let's go ahead to profile. So we're going to do profile. I'm going to go to nav, FMS speed, and auto flight again. Auto ice now if we need it. Anti-ice. Okay, let's go ahead and be ready. And we're going to do it. Is this going to get us lined up here to the vectors line? Let's go ahead and do direct intersection. You're going to have to hit it several times. And our first one on the flight plan is going to be, let's do direct Houston. Okay, obviously I did something wrong there. There's top of descent. Oh, date. Okay, there it is. Direct Houston. And direct Houston.
Stabilizer motion.
There's direct Houston. Okay, I should have been watching my flaps. There goes flaps. There's 250. There's our turn to the north. And I'll call that a relatively decent departure. Probably should have left my flaps on at 15 right now, and I think I hit my flaps button too much, so my flaps are up, but we don't appear to be falling out of the sky, so shh, don't tell anybody. Gears up too. Spoilers, let's disarm the speed brakes. Okay. What I tried to do there is I tried to do a little experiment. And I tried to do the down button on my speed brake on the actual controller. So really, when you arm it, you need to disarm it by using the hand and your mouse and click it down. Okay, so that looks good, and it wants us to turn the auto brake off. There we go. Okay, let's go over to the FMS, and we're going to go to performance, and we are in Econ Climb. As we get to management, as we get to cruise, what we're going to be doing is after we settle into cruise is when I'm going to try my next experiment, and that is performance econ climb thrust to MCT. And what I'm doing right now is I'm actually taking this note that I had here and I'm putting it down into cruise. I don't know if this is the right way to do this right now, but we're going to do that anyway. So I call it to fly above flight level 320, performance, econ cruise, thrust limits set to MCT. That's what I got. And that's how we're allegedly able to fly higher than flight level 320. Okay, there's 10,000 feet. Landing lights off.
Stabilizer motion.
Landing lights are off. Spoilers, auto brakes, FMS. Next thing is 18,000 foot altimeter transition. Airplane's behaving. Let's also go ahead and we're going to increase the range here a little bit. I'm going to put in airports in case we have an engine problem. If we've got to land, we want to see where the nearest airport is so that we can get on the ground. Another thing to think about doing is turn on traffic. We're not on VATSIM, so I'm not going to do traffic. You could also turn on data, and that's going to put a little more data on the screen. So this is our estimated time of arrival at Houston. It's 13:07. We're going to be there, it says, at 13:10. Okay. The only other thing is if I'd done traffic, it would have been TCAS traffic would have been there. It would say traffic in that little knob there. Okay, so everything seems to be going smoothly at the moment. So we're on our departure. I really did. So we took off this way. We should have done a heading of 237. We did that, and then I did turn up to Houston. So 27, what we should have done, continue climbing, expect vectors to Houston. Hey, I did the thing that we're supposed to do. How about that? Shh, don't tell anybody. Okay, slowly but surely, this is going good. Nothing to do down here. Okay, there's 18,000 feet. Reset the altimeters, and you can go ahead and you see where the pointer goes to a down arrow. That sets it to standard. Look down here and dial the backup altimeter to 2992. Unless you're outside of the US, then it's going to be 1013. Take a sip of coffee if it's early in the morning. How about a flyby? Not a bad day to fly. I mean, really nice clouds. I am using the cloud textures I use are the textures that came with Active Sky. I've been happy with these textures for quite a while. So this works really good. Active Sky has been great. The one thing I wish that weather engines did in flight simulators is when you get a weather update or you move from one weather area to the other, you get this jarring change in clouds and winds and everything. I'm sure that blending weather is probably a very hard thing to do, but that would be a really nice thing to have happen soon. I believe in the real world, at least the videos I've seen, there's some great real world cockpit videos for this airplane from Lufthansa Cargo that I suggest over on YouTube. So basically what I'm seeing is one pilot will have radar, weather radar on their map display. The other pilot will have terrain radar. So I believe that they're required to have both, but they split them up. So one pilot has one pilot has the other. All right, there's Houston. We're now directed Jetty. And I'm gonna leave this here on Econ Climb until we go to Econ Cruise. Then we're gonna go from thrust limits and we're gonna make that change to MCT and see if we fall out of the sky. This has been tested by some of the other people that fly with me on the spy flight, so I think we're going to be hopefully we'll be pretty good here. This is short flight, so making sure that your charts are all ready to go. Again, no shame if you're new. Use moving map, give you an idea of where you are. The purple triangle is a good thing to do. Turtle arrival. So coming into Turtle, we're coming in via Forrestal. And so this VOR here, there's Groove, there's Cashin. Okay, here at Trish, we need to be between 14 and 15,000 feet. At Turtle, 11,000 feet. So for our descent, ATC would say at some point in time that we are cleared to descend at pilot's discretion on the Turtle 6 arrival. Turtle 6 arrival, Forrestal transition, Chicago landing west. That's about all that they would say to us at this point. So what that would tell us is after we get to our final cruise, we're clear to do that 11,000. Now, one of the things is I think we just went from one waypoint to the other, and the winds are kind of making us rock around. This is one of the things that I believe that the developer is working to kind of smooth out a little bit. Basically, at this point, I think the thing to do is just let the airplane do its thing unless it's clearly going to put you into the ground or something like that. And then at that point, that's about all you can do. No. At that point, if it's getting really, really erratic, what I would do is come over here and I would take control of your heading. To take control of your heading, you press the up arrow here on the heading, and that's going to sync your heading with your current heading. And then the down arrow gives you control of the heading. I hope. Passing 28,000 feet, 10,000 feet to go. We're looking pretty good here. Let's see, I believe this is the distance to our top of climb right now, is 38 miles to the top of climb. Right now, my range ring is set to 40. So I don't see a top of climb hockey stick on this one, and sometimes I think that's there, so that might not be correct. So we're going to flight level 380. And then as soon as this goes to Econ Cruise, we'll do the thrust limit. I don't know if that's something that you can set before or after. We could go to the next page here. So here is pre-selective cruise, Econ, Max, Edit, to top of descent. I don't see it in there right now. So it's not there at the moment. And I'm not going to go play with the other button right now. Sim Toolkit Pro is also a really great way to manage where you are. It also puts weather information up, which is really nice too. And if you go over to Live Map, you'll see other traffic around you depending upon which network you're on. I'm going to go ahead and switch this at the moment. KORD. Here is the latest weather in Chicago. And I'm just going to go ahead, and now is a perfect time while we have a minute to go and take that information and plug this into my flight notes. So we can also go, and I'm going to start clearing some stuff out here. We don't need our takeoff performance data anymore. We don't need the ADIS. If we were on VATSIM right now, I would be starting to think about getting the O'Hare ADIS. But I really don't think the weather's going to change that much. One of the things about managing these complex airplanes, especially if you are flying on something like VATSIM in a big event, a big VATSIM event, one of the things to do is when you have a free moment, go clean up your flight notes, go get another weather update, go check an ADIS. Those things are kind of important because that's going to reduce your workload down the road, down the line here, especially when you get busy. One of the things I like to do is if I know that there's an airplane going to Chicago and they're ahead of me, I'm going to be listening to the ATC, and if I hear that American 209, which is going to Chicago with me or something like that, if they get switched over to another frequency, I'm going to go down here to my comm, and I'm just going to put this into my standby. It's anticipating what your next frequency is going to be. Boy, is that a time saver, because you know that when you're busy in a complex airplane like that, that's going to be the time that ATC is going to give you a call and say, hey, switch to this other frequency. And it's going to be one of those fast-talking ATC people that, they run like 2 or 3 of their digits together. I'm not trying to be mean to ATC. That's just the way it is when you're in a cockpit by yourself. Let's see here. We're going to flight level 380. There's a top of climb. So once we get there and this thing switches over to Econ Cruise, we're going to do thrust limits and we're going to hit MCT. And hopefully that fix works for us. Let's see, we're above 25,000 feet, above 25,000 feet, unless there's turbulence. I usually turn off my seatbelts because I'll never forget the day. Okay, the cabin pressure relief has popped on. Eek. Okay. Does that mean that I need to do something up here? I have no idea. Okay, we're now probably officially all going to die. Let's see. Air. Maybe this is something that it's automatically doing. I don't see anything that's red. My guess is they probably set something here in the outflow. I don't know. Tough to tell. But I'm going to assume that everything, it's angry at me again. Cabin pressure relief. This is over here. Okay, it's telling me what to do maybe. Maintenance, DP, PSI. Use manual system only if required. I don't know. Let's leave it on auto right now. What could possibly go wrong? There's 36,000 feet. Climbing at about 600-700 feet per minute here. My guess is probably the outflow is barely open here or something. Yeah, I do see this open here, so maybe that's it. Okay, 900 feet to go. Again, no idea if there's anything else to do with this. So let's fly the airplane and keep going. Again, what can possibly go wrong? We're going to do Mach 0.82. We're doing pretty good. 4 miles. So yeah, this looks like that's our distance to top of climb. Hope we're not going to burst the cabin apart here. I'm guessing that if there was something going on, I would be getting some sort of light or something up here. But everything up, this is a lot like Airbus in this case. Lights out, everything's supposed to be good. And here we go, 37, final cruise. So we're going to sit down here and we're going to look and see. When we go to Econ Cruise, we're going to hit Management, MCT. I shouldn't use that word unless I know what it means. One of the things about flying complex airplanes like this in Flight Sim is it's a learning experience, and in some cases it's guessing. And here we are, settling into our final cruise. We're looking down here for this to go into Econ Cruise. Progress looks pretty good. Econ Climb is still listed. I think it's waiting to stabilize in there. Wow, almost Mach 0.3 for this. We're going to be getting our deliveries in pretty quick. Still in climb. $3,990. And is that going to do it? Econ Cruise, thrust limits, MCT. That is supposed to keep us able to fly at 38,000 feet. Okay, so let's go back over to performance. We are 205 nautical miles out from our top of descent. Over on the progress page, we are 443 miles from Chicago. Estimated fuel on board, if you've been with me over on the spy flight, especially with an event like Cross the Pond coming up, this EFOB at the destination, that's an important number. If that number starts going down and it's really just ticked down like it does with me and some other airplanes, get a little bit nervous that we're going to run out of fuel on Across the Pond. So one of the numbers to take a look at here on this is what's called REMF, remaining fuel. Okay, so that's my remaining fuel. What this number is here, this 23,000, that is a combination of these three numbers, which is your reserve fuel. 30 minutes of flying time for holds, 15 extra minutes for, oh my God, we need 15 more minutes in the air. And then that 52 minutes is what gets you to your alternate. Those three numbers add up to 23,006. So remaining fuel, and that's why I'll look at this and see, is our remaining fuel on board when we land in Chicago above that number? If it is, it's time for coffee and donuts and pizza and all the other good things that we like. If it starts to go down, then you probably have got some fuel problems coming your way, and that's no good. So the airplane seems to be pretty good. We are at final cruise. Our seatbelts are off. We have MCT climb, which is going to hopefully keep us from falling out of the sky, as this airplane sometimes does. And again, I don't know if that's a bug. I don't know if that's something I've done wrong, but that seems to keep us flying. The lights are out. Cabin appears to be pressurized, although, well, look at that. Now that we're level, the air supply is now, the air warning is gone. So I'm going to go and put this back over here to config. That's usually what I'll leave this on. You could also leave this. So what else do we have? We could have status. Status got anything? Hey, that's the status. If there was anything wrong with any of the systems, we would have an indicator. Consequences, this is if there's a problem, if anything's wrong. We could also look at fuel, engine. Right now I'm leaving it on config. And at that point in time, I think that we are in cruise. We are chilling. So the next event for us is over on performance. 185 nautical miles to top of descent. One of the things I promised I'd show you is, let's say that you want to do your Navigraph stuff, okay? How do you do that? So if you have Navigraph and you don't have the Rotate MD80, you're going to need to go into Navigraph and set up the MD80. So let's go ahead and grab Navigraph here real fast. And here comes my Navigraph. And it is updating. So over here, you can see I've got two active skies. I'm not sure why. Here's a bunch of other stuff, but Rotate MD80. I don't have the Rotate MD80, but you had to set that up. How do you do that? Go to Add-on Mappings. And what you'll do is you will add an add-on mapping. So when you add one, it says, please select an add-on. And it's got a little down arrow. If you look down here, go down to Rotate, PQR, Rotate MD80. You'd select that. I'm not going to do that because I don't need it. So we don't need that. Once you select it, it's going to put it in here. Go back to add-on list. You'll probably check Rotate MD80 and update it. And that's going to get you the updated nav data. Okay? Once you do that, you got a few things to do. The first thing is to go into your X-Plane folder. And so here is my X-Plane folder. Sorry the text is so small, but I'll say what I'm clicking. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to Aircraft and look down here, and you can see, there's my MD-11. I don't have an MD-80, but now all of a sudden, magically, I've got an MD-80. Click this, and you're going to see it says nav data, and then there is an index file. So you're going to go ahead and select them both, right-click, and copy. Go up back to Aircraft, go into your Rotate MD-11 folder. Now then just right-click in here and paste. Okay? And what you'll notice is all of a sudden that little index file is going to appear. And you see where it says nav-data? Well, wait a minute. You probably remember what happened here in the MD-80. It says nav data. Okay, this one says nav-data. Okay, basically what you have to do is you can save this folder. You can rename it to nav backup, but then the new nav data folder that you put in there, you need to rename it to nav-data, and that gets you Navigraph data in there, and so that should solve that problem for you. And beyond that, this is what we're doing. So a couple of experiments that I'm going to try. Usually in the next 15 to 20 minutes of a cruise flight, if you're flying above flight level 320, all of a sudden the airplane engines are going to give out, and you're going to start slowing down, and you're going to fall out of the sky and make the simulated evening news, and that's no fun. So hopefully this MCT in thrust limit is going to keep us from falling out of the sky for now. That's fix number one. Fix number two is my new brilliant little idea for thrust reverse. I've got my two little buttons that are now set, and so I'm going to be thinking about this button after we start to touch down, and I want control of my throttles. I'm going to be hitting that button on my throttle, and then when it's time for thrust reverse, I'm going to have my throttles at idle, move my hand over to the other lever, and hold down the reverser, and that should be full reverse. We shall see. Stay tuned for another exciting adventure of... Don't worry, I'm not going to make you wait for another video. I'm going to hit the pause button on the record. It's time for me to get some more coffee. I will look forward to seeing you when this number is down to about 50. So in about 100 miles, okay? Okay. And the sun is coming up. It is a beautiful day to fly the FedEx MD-80 from Rotate. And don't touch that remote. I will see you in just a few. Hey, welcome back. As you can see, we are still in the air. So, my little experiment here about doing the MCT here for Econ Cruise seems to have actually worked out. We are now 63 miles from top of descent. Time for us to get busy with our descent preps. Well, that sounded pretty cool. So first step in my process, let's go to METAR-TAF. This is for Chicago O'Hare. Right now we're expecting runway 28 center. We got about a 12-knot crosswind, but there's a gust to 20. So we're going to expect a little bit of a crosswind on this one here. Not that big of a deal. A few clouds at 3,200 feet. We got 10 miles visibility. It's all VFR. Here is the latest METAR. As always, I'm going to take an opportunity and just cut and paste that into my little flight notes because I don't have this thing right in front of me all the time. So if I've forgotten what the winds are, I can just look over there and it's right there. Next thing, let's just go ahead and see what the real world is doing. This is METAR-TAF. Link to this is in the description. This is for the United States, I'm afraid. So sorry about that. I'd really like to see this kind of information available for lots of airports. Arrival, expect vectors ILS runway, look at that, 28 center. So 28 center is still a good runway for us in the real world. So I think we're good to go on that too. Looking around here, everything else is good. We've kind of briefed the approach as it is already, but here we all are. We're going to come in here at Forrestal. We do have one constraint. We need to be between 24,000 and 27,000 here at Mayrock. Trish needs 14 to 15, and Turtle is 11,000. Again, my feeling is if we were on VATSIM, a controller would tell us to descend at pilot's discretion, cleared for the Turtle 6 arrival, and then we would be expecting Chicago landing to the west. So that tells me at this point I can put in 11,000 feet. We're good to go down there. So let's come over here, and we're going to just dial in 11,000 feet. We're not going to push anything, but we're going to go to 11,000 feet. And 11. There we go. That's good. Now from there, we're waiting for a top of descent hockey stick. The airplane says that's going to happen in 46 miles. So we're good to go with that. As far as other descent preps that I've got in my notes, we would go and before descent, we would go to the takeoff and approach button and verify that this thing knows we're going to land on runway 28 center. We are. This is going to give me a VAP speed. Altitude error at Trish. I've noticed that this happens a lot. Let's look at the flight plan. Trish says 14.5, so that is wrong. So let's see if we click this side over here, and it says altitude at, this should be, I'm looking at my chart just to remind me because, okay, Trish is 14 to 15. Okay, so I'm gonna go and I'm just gonna clear this at Trish. Turtle is good. Okay, Mayrock has flight level 225. These don't seem to be very good to me either. But we'll go ahead and leave that in there. So Trish was supposed to be between some things. Let's not make it work extra hard. 157 is our VAP approach, touching down at 152. We'll go for our landing is going to be flaps 28 at 154. That'll be our flap setting. Let's go back to performance. And did we start our descent? No, it didn't. Did I miss something? Now it says 122 miles to top of descent. Okay, so I think I changed something with Trish. Maybe that changed something. Let's just look over here before we panic. Let's see where we are. Oh, look at this. So we're here at Cashin. This is showing a top of descent. Trish and Turtle, this is ridiculous here. This isn't right. Maybe, let's see here. Let's go back in here. I'm going to go to the flight plan. And I think that Mayrock here was a little weird too. I'm going to clear this number too. And I'm going to clear this top of descent here. Okay, that's not in there. Okay, so Turtle is at 11,000 feet. What did that do to our top of descent? Now it's at 115 miles at 1337. Okay, we also appear to be slightly off our course here. We're 20 miles from Cashin. Let's try and do direct to Cashin. What's after Cashin? Vinca. Let's try and go direct to Vinca. All right, it doesn't like the altitudes at Turtle and Trish now. So something is weird. I don't know what. We're now direct here. What is our performance saying? 109 miles. Okay, I think that we're a little high. I kind of feel like we're a little high at the moment. No, not that kind of high. Something's not exactly right in here, and maybe that's a navigation data error. Maybe I should have done something. I'm not sure. But this just doesn't seem to be right at the moment. this top of descent right here between Mayrock and Trish. Well, it's between Mayrock and Trish and Turtle. All right. It's okay. First of all, I'm not doing math. I'm just kind of guessing at the moment. And you're going to do a little bit of that. That's okay. We're flight simulator pilots. We don't have to be exact. Let's see if we can get this airplane from point A to point B and not make the simulated evening news. Okay. I'm going to go with let's go with the airplane. All right. So we may have to do speed brakes. We may be a little bit high. We may miss the altitude constraint at Turtle, but it looks like it wants us to start our descent somewhere between Mayrock and Trish. I think we're going to probably be okay. Let's trust the airplane. I know. Some of you are saying, what? What are you doing? This is crazy. We're all going to die. Very well. Very possibly. So let's see, we've got that. Another thing we can do while we're preparing for our approach is let's set our minimums for arrival. Over here on the old school Jepson charts, minimums for a Category 1 approach is 851 feet. So let's go ahead and set minimums. It's kind of hard to see. We're going to go ahead and set this over from RA to Barrow. And now we're going to dial this up to 851. It's a very small number down here that you're dialing, but I'm able to see it on my monitor. It might not be great for you, but that's how you dial this in there. So that's good to go too. So let's see here. We've got minimum set. Another thing to look at here is over here on the menu page and go to NavRad. And right now we don't have an ILS or a course set in there. You may need to plug in a number. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I'm sure that it's probably my fault, but there you go. So we may need to go in and work that. Back to performance, 87 miles now to our new top of descent. We'll see what it does. We've already put in 11,000 feet here for the approach, for the for Turtle. So let's see how it does. Barrow is set. Everything else is good. We've got the latest weather aboard. This is about it at the moment. So now we get to sit and wait just a bit. One of the things that I'm going to be putting in is a number of links in the description. For those links, you should find several things that I hope you'll find helpful. One is the METAR TAF website that I really like to use for weather. The other is the digital ATIS site that's good for ATIS in the United States. Another is the MD11 forum for Rotate over at xplane.org. This is where you're going to find the answers to, well, not all the answers, but you're going to find probably most of the answers to things that you're looking for. And if there isn't an answer in there, chances are someone's still working on it. I also put a link in there to my live stream over on Twitch and also the Discord. That's where it is that I have pinned my set of flight notes in there. There is a tab in there called Chit Chat. And I think that Keela, who basically built Discord and is a moderator on Twitch, she pinned that to the top, so you should be able to find that information in there. So all of that should be there. Of course, the basic flight notes I've already clipped into my the description too. So all of this should help you do this flight as well. Chances are in the next two to 4 to 6 weeks, something like that, I would expect that I'm going to probably update this video with some new things. But right now, the hope is that this gets you from point A to point B. Again, I think the best thing to do, fly this flight that I'm doing so you can match my button pushes and maybe see the things that I'm doing wrong. And by the way, I'm still really new here on YouTube. I read all the comments and questions and respond to all of them. So almost all of them. But if you found a better way to do it, look for that. And I'll respond to that and maybe even do a whole new video. So please do those sorts of things. If you like what you see, like I said, I'm new here on YouTube. So if you feel like if you'd like to support me in any way, you can. The best way to do that right now is come on over to Twitch and be a subscriber. Maybe gift a few subs too, and that's the best way to do that at the moment. I'm playing around with the idea of a Patreon. I'm also slowly gaining some ground to being able to get some support from YouTube. But that's the best way to do that now if you like what you see. Okay, if you were wondering where the clock is on this airplane, what time it is 13:53 Zulu. We are supposed to be at the gate at 14:20 Zulu. So a little less than half an hour to get to the gate. We'll see if we can actually make up for the lost time. This is a chronometer. It's a count-up timer. And this thing automatically starts for you. One of the things that's pretty amazing to me about this airplane is just all of the automation that's in this airplane. There is a ton of automation in this airplane. Okay, how are we doing? Let's look and see what Sim Toolkit Pro looks like. So let's see. You know what we can do? We can actually do a little bit of math and see what's going on. We are at flight level 380, 38,000. We want to go to 11,000. Whoops, I don't know how to type. 38123 minus 1123 times 3 divided by 1,000. I need 81 miles to do this, to get down from 38,000 feet to 11,000 feet. We've got 50 miles to go. Maybe, just maybe, the airplane's smarter than I. Well, it's definitely smarter than I am. So anyway, let's go ahead and trust the airplane. We're going to keep doing that. There still is some sort of an altitude error in the flight plan that I haven't detected yet. 48 miles to go. Go ahead and let's increase this just a little bit. We'll take airports out. So it's going to start us at Trish. Okay, this makes me a little bit nervous now. We need to be at 11,000 feet at Turtle. Flight plan. Vinca, Merock, top of descent. Trish and Turtle. Okay, I don't think we're gonna make that. Now I'm starting to think, this is 43 miles. How far is it between Trish and Turtle? 13 miles. This isn't working. This isn't that top of descent is not gonna have us at 11,000 feet at Turtle. The next step in the process is for us to take control of our descent. I'm starting to think about doing that. One of the things is as we're learning about new airplanes, you gotta have to make trade-offs like this. And so I'm kind of thinking we're gonna go ahead and I'm going to make this an open descent now. So down we go. And let's start our descent. Boy, that number goes up fast. I'm going to start at 1,500 feet per minute. We have started our descent. Econ descent, it still doesn't like the air at Trish. Now it says it wants me to initialize cruise flight level. I think we've just run into some sort of a little bug there too. Okay, so let's go ahead and go on down here. I think something was amiss. So let's go ahead and do our thing. We have started our descent. Let's also go, and usually after the descent, if you go to menu and NavRad, it starts to put information in here. So 108.9. Let's go and take a look at the ILS. 108.95. What does that say? 108.95, that's good. It does not put in the course yet, but I've found that as we get closer, it puts in the course. Some people say, no, you got to put it in now. I found that it shows up. So let's go ahead and leave that alone. Back to menu, back to FMC1. Gives you your data. Let's go to performance. And there we go. We're descending past 35,000 feet. I'm doing this at about 1,500 feet per minute. I will sometimes adjust this to about 1,800 feet per minute, which seems to be the standard descent rate. Generally, in the Airbus, I like to do it a lot slower because it helps me keep control of my speed. Right now, we're at about Mach 2.81 for the descent. Econ is Mach 0.82, so it's being a pretty good airplane here. We got a 250 knot speed here at High Harry. High Harry, I guess? I don't know, Harry. Anyway, we got a speed reduction here, and that's coming up in about 50 miles. So we're very probably, as we continue our descent, going to have to probably throw out some speed brakes. And because we're not going to go and descend with the FMS, the FMC system, we're probably going to be taking control of our own speed too. You do that by going over here to IAS Mach, the indicated airspeed, and I'm going to wait until we get below 28,000 feet long before. But then you go and you click the top button, that syncs it with whatever you're doing. The bottom button gives you control of your forward speed. Now then, there is another bug. Apparently, and this is something that the developer has acknowledged and is working on, and it's called the 360 degrees bug. And so basically what that means is if you are in heading hold mode, and maybe it's also not if you know, maybe in nav mode too. When the airplane is trying to make a left turn from say 010 degrees to 340 degrees, when you go over the 350, the 360, apparently it freaks out and puts you into a right turn. So we've got to be ready to take control away from that and do our own right turn to final on this one, okay? So that might be a thing. That is still a thing. The developer has acknowledged that, and they're working on that, and that's a fix that we should expect at some point. My solution is when I have to turn left and go across north, I just disconnect heading hold, this part of the autopilot, and do it myself. At that point in time, I kind of feel like I'm just going to take control of the autopilot of the flight myself and control it with the stick. It still will leave the auto throttles on. So that's a good thing. So when you take control of pitch and yaw and roll, the auto throttles remain engaged. So all you have to do is fly the plane, and that's a good thing with a big jet like this. Okay, we're below 31,000 feet. So starting to see a good indicated airspeed here, but okay, now this speed reduction is not at High Harry. Where is the speed reduction on the chart? The speed reduction is well, it's not even on the freaking chart. There is no speed reduction on this one. Okay, well, I guess this is saying where we're going to be doing our reduction to 250 knots. So I guess this is saying this is where we're going to be at 10,000 feet. Okay. Maybe that's what that's all about. See, it's a little bit like playing Sherlock Holmes in the air. With a new airplane like this, especially when something's just released like this, at that point in time, the airplane does become, a little bit of the art and science of deduction, trying to figure out, okay, what are we supposed to do here? Now, granted, this airplane also comes with some really, really good manuals. And if we wanted to be proper pilots, we would read the manuals and understand stuff before we get into the airplane. But But this is a simulator. We're here to have fun and drink coffee and tell bad jokes. Okay, so this is all looking better and better. I'm going to decrease my map just a little bit. We seem to be following the flight path pretty good. Everything seems to be relatively decent. At a certain point in time, my guess is our friends from air traffic control would want us to start thinking about taking control of our speed. They might start to speed us up and slow us down. We've got a wind at 97 knots here, so I think the airplane's trying to compensate, but I still think we're going to high Harry. I do think we're starting to go a little fast here. So let's go ahead and I'm going to sync my speed and I'm going to start taking control. We need to start getting things a little more reasonable. So now I've got control of speed. And let's see if it's going down. There we go. Had to hit it another time, and now all of a sudden this thing popped over here. We're still descending. We might need a little speed brake here. Let's do 1 notch of speed brake, and I'm going to control this with the button on my stick. There's 1 notch of speed, and this is helping. I want to get to 290 about now. Real-world pilots talk a little bit about speed brakes, so especially on approach. And one of the things that they say is if you've got to use speed brakes on the descent and approach, unless absolutely necessary, when you throw out your speed brakes, you always leave your hand on the speed brake lever until you put them down. Otherwise, they say you will forget that you've left the speed brakes out and you're trying to descend and do everything and you've forgotten speed brakes out. Now you're on final approach and all the numbers aren't working out and everything's crazy and speed brakes. So they suggest that you leave your hand on the speed brake lever until you put them back away. Okay, there's 290. Let's put speed brakes away. And I've done that myself. I've been in other airplanes on approach. I've needed speed brakes and I've forgotten. So if you can leave your finger on the button, whatever. That seems to do good. We now may be descending a tad bit too fast, so I'm going to go ahead and slow my rate of descent here a bit to 1,500 feet per minute. We've clearly busted the descent. So at this point in time, let's concentrate more on keeping control of the airplane here. And we're passing 21,000 feet. Final plunge altitude. If you've been on the spy flight, you've heard me use that term before. So it's meant to be entertaining and crazy and dramatic, but what I'm really referring to is this point right here. This is the final descent to the runway. And at Seika, we're going to be at 2,300 feet. So as we're coming on down, at some point in time, ATC might tell us to descend and maintain 5,000. So we're going to go ahead and do that, but eventually the final plunge is 2,300 feet. So we're continuing our descent. Let's say ATC knows we're high, but they're sequencing us in because they're really cool here in Chicago. So at a certain point in time, they might be telling us to descend and maintain 5,000. So at that point in time, let's go ahead and say, yep, 5,000. So we're going to just dial in that 5,000 now. And again, I'm dialing these things slowly. If you dial them fast, all of a sudden you may find that you're going super duper, it just, the numbers, the faster you spin it, the bigger the numbers change. And it gets a little crazy sometimes. We do know that 5,000 feet would be at Rusco. There's Rusco right there. So if we're at 5,000 feet around Rusco, we can turn to final. That might be cool. Passing 19,000 feet, our next step in the process is to do altimeters. The current time is it's past the top of the hour. We probably have a new METAR. So let's go to KORD, Chicago O'Hare. This is our new weather. Our old weather was at 11:54. This is 13. This is a new weather. So this has also got a new altimeter setting. So I'm going to paste that into my flight notes. Okay, there's flight notes. We're going to come in on 28 center. So we've still got a wind from the right. It's going to blow us to the left, and it's picking up 17 knots now. Our altimeter is 3017. So that's good to know. As we approach 18,000 feet, we have 3017 on the barrow. 301456 3017, and I'm going to be good and come down here and set my backup altimeter. Perfect. That's looking nice. We're coming up on Giorgio. I'm going to start sneaking my speed down a little bit more. Oh, you don't just dial it like an Airbus. You actually have to press the button and tell it to do it. Airbus, you just dial it down and down you go. This airplane, you've got to press the button. So in this airplane, if you're a fan of the old show Mystery Science Theater, always tell TV's Frank to press the button. And if you're not a fan of Mystery Science Theater, then probably most of my jokes sound pretty stupid to you. Okay, looking pretty good here. There's our speed continuing to come down. I'm going to continue to reduce it. Now I'm going to go to 240. It says 250, 240, especially if you have a tailwind, keeps you at 250. I'm not sure exactly what the rule is in the real world, if you dial that in or not, if you go to 240 or 250. But our speed's coming down. We're continuing the descent. There, it says 5,000 feet at Rusco. We got 10,000 feet to go. I don't know. I'm also there's 240. I'm gonna continue to think about reducing speed. We are now, we got a flap speed of 15. So flaps 15. It's time to start rolling some flap out here. There's one notch. And I believe what that's gonna do is it's gonna extend the leading edge slats. So we got a little slat going there. Now we're going to go and do our next click. And this is going to set us for flaps 15. And dial a flap. And dial a flap to flaps 15. I got to get a better view for dial a flap here. Okay, we're going to 240. I think we slowed it down a little bit too much. So my speed is now dropping. Could be I did a little bit too much there. You gonna kick the speed back up there, airplane? It's continuing to drop down. What do you bet maybe we ran into some ice? Let's do engine anti-ice. Maybe we ran into some ice. I am told that this airplane is pretty susceptible to that. Here are clouds. What is our temperature outside? 16 below. Yeah, maybe we just ran into some icing here. Okay, now all of a sudden it got the memo, and we're going to kick that up. Speed brakes were not a problem, so maybe I deployed my flaps too fast. I don't know, but now it's going to kick us back up to 240. All right, that looks pretty good. Okay, we're getting ready to come up to vectors here. We've got a good tailwind here. So as we go to vectors, it's time for us to go and take control of our headings. So I'm going to do the top button here, synchronize, and now we should have heading control. So there we should have heading control. Now we've got it all. Okay, let's go ahead and get ready for a turn. I generally do these kinds of turns at 210. So there's 210, and that goes around there. Okay, we're gonna look down and do auto brakes. Auto brakes for this one, let's try medium. Speed brakes, I think we're in pretty good control of our speed. Speed brakes are armed. FMS is in takeoff and approach mode. Takeoff and approach VAP 156. I always add a little bit to that, so let's call it 160 for landing. Minimums are set, everything else is looking good. Flaps are coming out. So our speed coming down to 210. Sometimes you might have to hit it another. It is making its way down there. All right, so here we are coming around here. Now then, I would really like to have the auto flight controls set for this. I'd really like to not take control quite yet. So I'm going to reduce my rate of descent here a bit, and we're going to continue to go out here a little bit. Let's go. I'm going to turn to 050 degrees. 050. My strategy is I'm going to do a figure 8 to avoid the 360 turn. We're going to go the other way.
Stabilizer motion.
Okay, we should be down to flaps 28 now. So dial a flap. Is 28. There's 25. There's flaps 28. So basically the strategy is I'm going to go over my flight path and then do a right turn around here. Now obviously in VATSIM they're going to look at me and say, what are you talking about? Well, this is how I'm getting over that. Let's see if we're able to continue using the autopilot on this. My guess is no clue. My guess is no clue. We're about ready to fly over this, and we're going to fly over so that we can do a nice gentle 360 and come in around and see if we can't capture this thing. I have yet to actually capture this thing. Now, up here on the flight control unit, we have the approach and land button. I'm not doing that until we fly over the localizer, which we should be doing right about now. And if we want proof, let's go and look over here. Let's turn on the pink dot. And there we are. So here we are past Lind, and you can see, yep, we're about ready to fly over. So we're going to fly over this thing and then come back in and see if we'll see if we're clever enough to have solved the problem. Okay, we're also approaching 5,000 feet here. We need to make sure that it doesn't go below 5,000 feet. Here we are going over. So there we are over the ILS, the localizer. We're going to go out, come back in, and hope that this works out. I also have that new strategy again with my controller buttons here. So one of the things I'm going to do is I've got the Thrustmaster stuff, the Airbus. It's got the Airbus detents and stuff. While the auto thrust is going, I'm going to slowly move my throttle down a bit to what would be the managed detent. So that way I don't have to go through that while I'm reducing speed. Okay, 6,000. It looks like it's going to stop us at altitude. That's great. I have two buttons that I'm going to work with on touchdown. I'm going to do my auto throttle disconnect and hope that that disconnects all the throttles. If it doesn't, then two other engines are going to be going. If that's a problem, I'm going to go over and try and hit the top button and the side button. We'll see how that works. Hopefully it disconnects them all. If it doesn't, another option might be to hit the auto flight button again. We shall see. I have no clue as to what to expect here. Down below 10,000 feet, we should have done landing lights. Landing lights are good. We should have done seatbelts. Here we come to 5,000 feet. Okay, there's Lind, there's Vogler. We'll start our right turn here in just a second. Let's make sure that the airplane captures and holds 5,000. Getting nervous. How will all this work? Okay, so windshield heat I did turn on. We were in what I thought was icing. I don't know for sure. I'm going to turn that off. Are we out of the clouds? We're out of the clouds. What's the temperature outside the airplane? -4. There still might be icing problems out there, so I'm going to leave my engine anti-ice on. All right, we have captured 5,000 feet. The airplane is behaving great. Let's go ahead and go to 100 degrees. So 100 is our new heading. That's essentially a reciprocal course to the runway. Out we go over the water. Holy moly, look at all that. This airplane definitely shows moisture coming off the wings and condensation, doesn't it? Okay, we are now, there's a reciprocal course. That looks pretty good. Then we'll do 90 degrees and 90 degrees, and that should do us. Okay, this may be a thing. Look at that. My speed dropped down a bit. Now, my gut tells me that that might be accurate for this airplane. Okay, this is not going to be... Sorry, I can't come up with a better word right now. It may not be instant gratification on your heading, your speed, and your engines here. So, let's go ahead and do 90 degrees.
Stabilizer motion.
Oh, we just love stabilizer motion. In fact, let's go beyond that. Let's try and make this turn to 90. So I'm just dialing it out. There's 90 degrees and execute the turn. Let's see what it does. Well, we didn't go into Lake Michigan yet. So, you know, we're 5,000 feet, 210 knots. Life seems to be relatively good at the moment. I don't know. There's 90 degrees. There is our path coming up. That looks good. Okay, now I'm going to go and I'm going to make the map bigger. There was our intercept point as we settle into our new heading. Let's go ahead and continue the turn. So I'm going to continue the turn. And execute that. Probably going to fly over this maybe. Now, this ILS does not go out a gazillion miles out into Lake Michigan here. So we're probably going to need a little adjustment, but right now... So we're going to try... We're basically doing direct to Lind. And we avoided the 360 bug. So we're good to go there. Okay, 5,000 feet I believe is Hazel, if I remember correctly. Is that Hazel? No, it's Rusco. So 5,000 feet is Rusco. So that's where we are there. All right, so that looks good. Now, we don't have localizer. We're still too far out here. Let's go and see. I'm trying to decide, do we want to try and do direct Lind, or let's just do this ourselves? So a few degrees to the right, because we've got winds of 26 knots blowing us to the right. So I want to be over here. How about 282? There's 282. Maybe that's too much. Uh-oh, and this is going down again. I'm guessing that was a little wind thing there. Engines are spooling back up.
Stabilize their motion.
Always good to know the state, and now it's back up. So we've got, and remember, we've got gusty winds here in Chicago. Winds gusting up to what, 22 knots or something like that? No, 24. 330 at 17, gusting to 24. So it is a windy day in the Windy City. No localizer yet. Now we may need to hit the approach and land button now. I don't know if we have to turn that on or not. Generally, I don't start picking up the ILS until we get a little bit closer to the airport. But it could be now we need to do that. I'm going to go ahead and let's pop that in. It still didn't change anything, but localizer is now armed. So once we get a localizer, it should be armed, we hope. Okay, now is a good point in time as we get a little bit closer to that, to Rusco, which is 20 miles away. My next landing speed is going to be 180 and some more flaps. And that's going to take us down to flaps 35. Remember, our landing speed, though, VREF is 151, 156, 160 is what I'm going to have this thing land us at. No sign of this. I think I need to go a few more degrees. Let's go to 285. I found that smaller numbers are better than bigger numbers on all this. I don't know if that's entirely true. Hey, we're still nice and level. We're still holding 210. We are now within 20 miles of Rusco. So I'm going to go and drop the map in one level more. There's land, no localizer yet. Let's just go and re-verify. Navrad 108.95 IVZE. This says ISHXH. That doesn't seem right, but the frequency is good, so let's not stress about that. Back to FMC1 and back to takeoff and approach. There's Lind. So we may need to go and do a little of this ourselves. That's okay. We'll start our descent. We'll take over, if we don't have any of this, we'll take over everything at Rusco. Okay, there's Lind. How about back 2 degrees? How about back a little more than that? Okay, Rusco is now 15 miles away. Still no localizer. In a situation like this, I'm also using my moving map over on Navigraph just to get a little more help here. Okay, now I'm also setting myself up, making sure my chair's kind of locked in. We just got another wind gust. No localizer yet. Rusco's coming up in 10 miles, so the wind gust is really dropping us down. Hey, jet engines, are you fired up? Oh yeah, we're at 101. There he goes.
Stabilize their motion.
So it's a windy day in the neighborhood. I guess that's the thing. That's why you have you know, if the landing speed says 185, you land at 160. Rusco is coming up. Okay, let's go ahead and get a little help from the autopilot here. We're going to go down to that final plunge altitude, 2,300. We're going to be ready to do that. That sets us up to be able to take over because this is not showing up at the moment. But I've noticed that some of these, it takes a while here at Chicago. Okay, so we're looking good there. We're slightly off to the side. So maybe 2 degrees. And here's what I'm using. I'm also using this to help see how are we doing here. And we're still 20 miles out. So we've still got a ways to go. And ILSs are not known for going a gazillion miles. I hear you, oh, we got another wind gust. Look at that. We're dropping it down again. Coming up on that, on Rusco for 5,000 feet. Engines are still up to full, so auto throttle is still trying to keep up with these wind gusts.
Stabilizer motion.
Okay, that just changed. It's not low speed protection.
Stabilizer motion.
We're gonna go gear.
Landing gear. Landing gear.
It's being a little bit brattier here. Uh-oh.
Landing gear. Landing gear.
I think we just stalled.
Landing gear.
Captain's got control.
Autopilot.
Speed's coming up. We've got it. I think we just stalled.
Autopilot. 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 Autopilot.
Well, that was entertaining. Okay, the speed is not doing what I want it to. I now have control of my own throttles. I just did that release thing.
Sync rate.
I've just floored my throttles. It's not slow. It's not getting my speed back. Okay, that one button that I said did release all the auto throttles, so that experiment was confirmed in the middle of this.
Stabilizer motion. Stabilizer motion.
Okay. Holy. Okay, we do have ILS though, but I think that the winds really was messing with us here. Okay, we're slightly off to the side here.
Stabilizer motion.
Okay, what did this do to us? 3,000 feet. At Hazel, we're supposed to be at 4,000 feet. So we're relatively good here. I want to bug 160. I don't actually care to set it up. We're not going to trust it, but we're going to bug 160. I have my own throttles. We're a little bit off. Okay, what are you talking about for flaps? My flaps are probably good for landing. Everything else is set. Okay, that's a little not enough throttle. We want to hold a little more. There we go. There it is. There's my landing speed. We're getting back over here on course. Okay, let's start a bit of a descent here. At Hazel, we want to be at 4,000 feet. We're at 4,700. So we're a little high. Reducing my own throttles. Getting ready to turn back over on course here. Glide slope and localizer is apparently useless for me right now. So I'm just trying to get on the line here. I think I see my runway. Okay, so we're coming up on Seika. Seika is 2,300. We are definitely high. So we're doing a bit of a dive, which I'm sure they don't like you to do in this airplane. Coming back over, there is Seika right there. I see my runway. We're now doing more and more visual. Ah, here comes the police. You can see the police car going there on the Kennedy. Reducing throttles a little bit more. Passing 3,000 and change. It's 2,000 and change here.
500.
Start our turn out here. There's our runway.
Stabilizer motion.
Of course it is. Let's start to add some power here. We don't want to get behind. We're lined up on the runway. Remember, we've got a crosswind from the right. Watching my speed. Okay, if you've got my little scheme on the nose wheel, I'm making sure that my nose wheel is centered right now. There's 160. There's a little bit more reasonable descent. There's our runway. Adding a little bit of power as we reduce our rate of descent. We're right on our landing speed. My throttle is now not engaged. Okay, I just racked my throttles all the way forward.
Glide slope.
What do you mean glide slope? You don't even know where we are.
Glide slope. Glide slope. Glide slope. Glide slope. Glide slope. Glide slope.
Okay, we're above 160.
Glide slope. 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 Glide
Kind of
slope.
snowy here.
Glide slope. Glide
There's
slope.
my runway. Okay.
Glide slope. Glide slope. Glide slope. Glide slope. Glide slope. Glide slope. Glide slope.
It never correctly
slope.
tuned
Glide slope.
my
Glide
approach,
slope.
my ILS
slope.
frequency in this case.
Glide slope. Glide slope.
Bratty
Glide
airplane.
slope. Glide slope. Glide slope.
Okay, next
Glide
big
slope.
experiment
Glide slope.
is going to be
Glide slope.
throttles to
Glide slope.
idle,
Glide slope. Glide slope. Glide slope. Glide
and then hitting the other
Glide
button.
slope. Glide 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 slope.
This airplane just
Glide slope.
loves to yell at
Glide
me.
slope.
No, don't you want to yell at me all the way till we're on the ground, you silly airplane? Little high.
Sink rate. Sink.
30. 20.
Idle. Reverse, holding reverse. I'm holding my reverse. I think it's doing it. Reverse, I'm holding the button down. I'm not moving throttles. Release. Disengage. Holy moly. Okay, that all kind of seemed to work a little bit here. Okay, auto brakes disengaged. Speed brakes down. Flaps up. Well, holy cats. That wasn't it wasn't not great, not terrible, right? All right, off the runway. I'm going to start the APU power button. FedEx land is right basically at the end of this runway. Okay, I've got more control with my manual braking. And we want the second turn. That is FedEx land. Okay, if you've got the Nimbus scenery for this for Chicago, there is an error in the in one of the marker beacons. And if you're going to park an airplane here at FedEx land, there is 10 knots. And we can start our turn. There's the taxiway into FedEx land. So there is a annoying marker beacon, and if you do a parking spot any place other than the than the closest that we're going to, you have to listen to the marker beacon. And I don't think that the volume control works all that great. Okay, landing lights, those can go off. High intensities, those can go off too. So we're gonna go for this parking place right here, right on the end, and hopefully that means we don't have to listen to the marker beacon. This is probably my... Now, okay, so we don't have gate guidance going in. If you don't have gate guidance, just look off to the right or the left, and that will probably give you a good stopping point. Okay, there's a stopping point. Let's go ahead and do parking brakes. Parking brakes are on. Let's clear this. We should have an APU up and running. We do. I'm going to turn on the bleed. We're going to turn off that little nose light there. Everything else is good. Up, add engine anti-ice on. So now we can go ahead and do engines 1, 2, 3. We're going to stop squawking mode Charlie. So that's good. And it wants us to check and confirm our V speeds. So it's got those. So everything else is good to go up here. We'll do seat belts. We're going to disarm the doors so we can open up the doors. APU seems to have our power. And the good news is we made it to the gate. This looks great too. Emergency exits, we could also turn off the beacon. And all of the lights are good. I think everything is pretty much set here. So let's, before we go and start unloading and stuff, we do have to take a look at this landing. So let's go to flight. This is the nice thing about this. We can go over here and let's roll back to about here. And this is kind of when the wheels started coming off the wagon here. You can see that we've got definitely some pitching around here, but once I took control, things did stabilize. Of course, at that moment, we ended up high and fast as usual. But fortunately, this main roadway here takes us right into the runway, and I kind of thought that was the one that we needed, but you can also see there's our shadow coming into Chicago. Here's a big park area to the east of the airport. Go ahead and speed this up just a little. You'll see flopping around a little bit here. Now, the one thing that I did notice is I thought I disconnected the auto throttles, but I didn't have control for a little bit in there. So I rammed the throttles all the way forward and back, and then all of a sudden it re-engaged. I'm guessing that that's the throttle logic in this airplane. I'm not 100% sure. But it really was a little surprising that I couldn't do any... couldn't get the throttles working. Landing rate was a minus 186. So as far as landing rate's concerned, not that awful. And look at this, we'll touch down. There we are. I'm pulling the throttles all the way back, and here come my reversers. So here come the reversers. Speed brakes deployed, and I'm just holding the reverser button down. I'm not moving my throttles forward. I'm just holding the reverser button down, and we clearly have reverse going here. How about that? That worked great. Now we're slowing down there. I just released the button. Awesome. Okay, well, you know what? I'm not gonna say not great, not terrible. This one was pretty good. I'm actually, this is probably my nicest landing. I think that one of the things that happened was my, I think that one of the things that happened here was my, the winds are gusty here, and the airplane just didn't handle that. Apparently, the airplane is a little sensitive to the weather. So, thought I put my speed brakes down. Nope, my speed brakes are still wide open here. So that's why the speed brakes are still up. I thought I put those down. This is FedEx land here at Chicago O'Hare. And so really, for learning to do this airplane, a hop from FedEx in Memphis to up here is a really good hop. You get a little bit of cruise, but not too much cruise, and I think that works really good. So the fixes that I've tried on this one all seem to work really good, and I'm pretty happy. The throttle is my one big concern. I bet if we were coming into an area where there wasn't a bunch of wind or anything like that, we would have probably just sailed through. So there you go. I think we actually pulled this off. I'm going to turn into FedEx land. Again, if you go anywhere beyond this gate here, I believe in the Nimbus scenery, there is some sort of a scenery error or something, and the marker beacon just blasts your ears out. You should be able. We shouldn't hear it unless we pop this up. But right now, you hear it, so you would have to turn that up. If we were on VATSIM, you would have had to have popped that up and turned it up. That actually works pretty good on this airplane. So all in all, super duper happy with this. That's got speed brakes still up too. So we made it. Nobody was hurt. Nobody was arrested. And all this looks good. If you wanted to, you could get the rotate box. We could put chocks in place. We could bring out some stairs. We could grab a ground power unit, and we could start opening up a few doors. There isn't really a unloading sequence on this thing here, but there is an unloading, but it doesn't mean that much on this one. So you just go and put in another load of cargo and another load of fuel, and off you go. Like I said, this airplane is still getting some bugs worked out. We're still learning about it. About 3, 4, 6, 8 weeks from now, I'll probably come back with another update. In the meantime, I'll look forward to reading whatever it is that you've got to say about this airplane. Again, I also like to say this is not the right way versus the wrong way. This is simply what worked, or in this case, barely worked for me. Leave your questions and your comments for me here. I read them all here on YouTube, and I hope you'll join us over on the Spy Flight. We fly every day, Tuesday through Sunday at 1900 Zulu, and you're always welcome to join us. It's a big group flight, and there's people there that are pretty smart, so you'll learn all sorts of cool stuff about this amazing airplane. If you liked what you see, obviously, like all the other YouTubers, if you feel like subscribing, that's great. Content comes out whenever content comes out, and if you'd like to show a little bit more support, the best way to do that is join me over on Twitch and start up a subscription. Thank you so much for flying along. I hope that you are doing really well. Things are still crazy in the real world, but in the sim world, things are really good. And I will look forward to seeing you again soon here on YouTube, and probably even sooner over on Twitch. Cheers.